The doll from the past. How I broke an ancient curse. This story began with a simple gift. My aunt, a collector of antiques, sent me a peculiar doll for my birthday. It was made of porcelain, with cracked skin, glassy eyes, and a vintage dress stained by time. "It's an antique," she said over the phone when I called to thank her. "They found it in an old house somewhere in Eastern Europe. I thought it would be perfect for your collection." I did have a soft spot for old things and enjoyed collecting unique items. But this doll, there was something unsettling about it. Its eyes seemed to follow me wherever I went. I placed the doll on a shelf in my bedroom. That night, I woke up with a strange feeling of being watched. When I opened my eyes, I saw that the doll was no longer positioned as I had left it. Its face was turned directly toward me, even though I clearly remembered facing it the other way. It must have been my mistake, I thought, and went back to sleep. The next day, I adjusted the doll again, but when I returned home that evening, the doll was no longer on the shelf. I found it in the corner of the room, facing the wall. This was odd. I lived alone, and no one else could have moved it. That night, things got worse. Around 3 in the morning, I woke up to a sound. It was a faint whisper, as though someone was mumbling to themselves from the corner of the room. "Who's there?" I called out, turning on the light. The room was empty, but the doll, it was on the floor, staring directly at me with its unblinking glass eyes. The next day, I called my aunt to ask if she knew anything about the doll. "Do you know anything unusual about this thing?" I asked. Her tone changed. "I didn't want to scare you, but there are rumors about it. They say it's cursed. Supposedly, the doll contains the soul of a little girl who died many years ago." I didn't believe in such tales, but something about the doll defied explanation. I decided to throw the doll away. I packed it into a box and drove it to the nearest dumpster. When I returned home, I felt a strange relief, but by nightfall, that feeling disappeared. Around midnight, I heard the same faint whispering. When I entered the living room, I froze. The doll was back on the shelf. Goosebumps ran down my arms. I knew I had thrown it out. The next day, I began researching the doll's origin. After hours of searching online, I found an old article. It spoke of a girl named Anna who had lived in the late 19th century. Her wealthy but strict parents locked her in her room when she became ill, refusing to let her out until she recovered. The girl died from her illness, and her favorite doll was found beside her body. Ever since, rumors persisted that her spirit had become trapped in the toy. The doll had passed from house to house, bringing strange events with it. People tried to get rid of it, but it always came back. That night, I realized I couldn't take it anymore. The doll sat on the shelf, its glassy eyes gleaming in the dim light of my nightstand lamp. I decided to burn it. I carried the doll outside, placed it in a metal bucket, and set it on fire. As the flames consumed it, a horrifying sound pierced the air. It was a scream, high-pitched and full of pain, as if someone was begging for help. The fire died out on its own, even though I had clearly seen the doll begin to burn. I returned inside, shaken to my core. The next day, I sought help from a woman who specialized in cleansing homes of evil spirits. She examined the doll and said, "This soul is trapped. It doesn't want to harm, but its suffering has made it dangerous." She performed a ritual during which I heard strange sounds, whispers and sobbing, faint but unmistakable. When the ritual ended, she assured me the spirit had been set free. After that, the whispers stopped, and the doll remained motionless. Several years have passed since then. I've stopped collecting antique items, especially those tied to mysterious stories. Sometimes I think about the little girl and hope her soul has finally found peace.